Look who's back in my little tool temple for another sermon. It's the smurf lathe, or the slumpverdrehbank if you're German. The lathe was hibernating in a rather damp building and starting to rust. And now that the official lathe is gone, I think it's about time I try and get this thing going again. I rewatched my testing video to freshen up my memory, and it looks like I've already fixed two problems: the chuck run out and the taper in the tailstock ram. So now I only need to hook up a 3-phase motor and a VFD drive to get it going again. But first I need to do some machining on the pulley. The groove doesn't really fit a V-belt, and that's why the belts that are on the machine now are so raggedy. I think originally this pulley may have used a round leather belt, and that's why the V-belt is fitting so poorly. It is bottoming out. It is also possible that they have already done some machining on this, because the outside here is larger than the inside. Anyway, let's take apart the headstock and see if I can machine a proper fitting groove in this pulley. The front of the spindle is bigger than the rear, so the spindle has to come out on the front. So I will start removing parts from the rear. And the first thing that needs to go is this threading mechanism. Looks like if I can loosen up the pulley, everything will just slide out on the front. Easy enough. Well oiled. There's some damage to the thread here. I will get a needle file and try to clean it up. Oh, it's still pretty tight. Yeah. It feels a bit like I'm recutting the thread. Cleaning up those threads was pretty hard to do with my shitty needle files. This isn't the right spinner. Yep. God damn it. Always the same. Something that looks so simple becomes hard to do. I'm gonna get my grinder. I've done some grinding with the Dremel and it looks like it's coming off. Still feels like I'm reworking the thread. Very small hair-like chips here. Yeah, it's coming off. There it is. Victory is mine. But I got the pulley loose just by supporting it by hand and hitting it with the nylon hammer. It's not even key weight on there. That is a bit of a surprise. You see, no key weight. It must be a tapered fit. Never seen that before. I think it should all come apart now. And there it is. So here's the pulley, and if you look inside here you'll see the same sort of cavities as the other lathe had. So I'm definitely not going to have this thing electroplated. And on the opposite side there are the same sort of indexing holes the other lathe has. And before I call it a day, let's have a quick look at the spindle as well. It's pretty rough here, but I will try and polish that out a bit. But on the plus side, the spindle isn't running directly inside the headstock casting. I removed some of the smurf coating, and now you can clearly see the bearing. The bearing, by the way, hasn't suffered like the spindle. It still feels pretty smooth. There is some damage on the rear, but it's better than the front. There is a taper inside the spindle nose. It starts with 15.3, and after about well, almost exactly 35mm there is a ridge. The hole itself goes much deeper, maybe even up to the rear bearing. But because of the threading mechanism, it obviously doesn't go all the way through. It looks like that this surface here is for taking the thrust loads. It's a bit of a weird construction, and I've seen pictures of similar lathes on the internet, and they didn't have this rear construction. So I wonder how those lathes handled their thrust load. Or maybe the lathe isn't properly adjusted at the moment, and this surface here should handle the thrust load. I'm not sure. What do you think? There is no taper here. You would expect a taper. Talking about tapers, here's the one for the pulley. It goes from 28.95 to about 29.35, something like that. Here's a shot of the mechanism that engages and disengages the sliding spindle threading mechanism. This is the mechanism disengaged, and normally the template here and the nut would prevent the spindle from sliding forward. And if you move the lever up, this surface here disengages from the template, and the spindle can move freely forward. Anyway, I think you get the idea. I'm done for today because I'm freezing my nuts off here. To be continued.